Cheers and salutations. Welcome, one and all, to Americans Learn. My name is Kit. Welcome, one and all, to our channel. As you might tell, this is a Sabaton history special. So, first of all, this is, again, a huge shout out to all of you lovely people, because all of you told us about Sabaton history. And since we are checking out Sabaton history, please be sure to support their original content. And the original link to this video is in the description box below. So please help out their work. But also, more importantly, what I want all of you to know is that, when we do Sabaton history, first we get our learn on, and then we check out the music video. So, this video is titled A Ghost in the Trenches. Francis Pegahmagabow. I think that's how you say his name. Francis Pegahmagabow. Sabaton history, number 18. That's right. I'm still following in order. So let's find out who the ghost in the trenches is. Francis Pegahmagabow. Seems like a name to respect. It's a pretty impressive name. Francis Pegahmagabow. Francis Pegahmagabow. Let's find out his story. A ghost in the trenches. So it turns out this has to deal with trench warfare. Let's check it out and get ready to play it. So grab yourself a tasty snack and a tasty beverage. Please be sure to support Sabaton and Sabaton history. All right? As a favor for me, please do that. So, since I'm in charge of the ones and twos, let's get ready to play in a 3, a 2, a 1.
I'm Indy Nidell.
And I'm Joachim from Sabaton.
And this is Sabaton History.
The modern sniper came from World War I.
And our song, Ghost in the Trenches, is about the greatest sniper of the Great War.
Raid after raid, men charge straight into the fire, laying their lives down for a few feet of ground. It is a costly and destructive tactic. Some men have found out that a single shot can be more efficient than a hail of bullets when directed from a sniper's sight. Like ghosts, they sweep across the trenches with deadly precision.
The modern concept of the sniper, like so many other concepts of modern...
So I don't mean to pause it here, but look. That First World War was beyond brutal. Beyond madness. The war to end all wars. Hearing some of the harrowing stories and what some of these men went through. I know I would probably be, if I was there, like, I'd probably be the first one dead. Dead on arrival.
Modern war was born during the Great War, more or less from day one in 1914. Now, there had, of course, been soldiers tasked with skillfully taking out the enemy before that. In fact, the English term sharpshooter dates back to the Napoleonic Wars and appears in print for the first time in an article in the Edinburgh Advertiser from 1801. That, in turn, seems to be a literal translation of the German Scharfschütze that dates back to at least 1781. You see, the Bavarians and Austrians of the time are already deploying skilled hunters to take out selected individuals in the enemy line. Given the range and quality of their front-loaded guns and the nature of war being mostly advancing formations over open ground, they're still doing this pretty much in direct sight, though. It's the development of better guns, and more importantly, better scopes, that enables the terrifying sudden death from far, far away by a single shot. And in 1914, the Germans pioneer the improved tactic by, again, employing skilled hunters, but now equipped with strong binoculars and high-precision sights. Although their guns are at first of average quality, ranging effectively roughly 300 meters, they are soon equipped with the Mauser G98 rifle with a 1 kilometer or about 3,000-foot effective range.
Well, the Germans weren't screwing around. My God.
As hunters, they are not only skilled shots, though, but also experts in patiently waiting out their enemy from a camouflaged position. As the war bogs down into the trenches, these killers soon become a feared and very effective threat. At the time, an average German sniper racks up 40 kills before he is unlucky enough to have his position vaguely estimated so he can be eliminated by a barrage of artillery shells coming down on him and anything that happens to be anywhere near him. With a 40-to-1 kill rate, it doesn't take long for the Allies to copy the German.
Well, first of all, damn, doing 40 kills and then you get zeroed in and that's how you die? Bombarded with artillery shells? You get no open casket funeral. You just die in the cold, cold mud. I don't wish that on anybody. Ugh, what a way to die. Oh, what a horrible way to die.
German tactic, so that most units in the trenches on both sides are accompanied by one or several sharpshooters with long-range guns, precision scopes, trained in the art of camouflage, lightning-fast visual analysis, and extreme gun accuracy. Men that will have to leave the relative safety of the trenches, crawl into no man's land, or even sneak into or behind the enemy lines to deliver death and gather intelligence. You need a special kind of man to do that kind of work, to have even a remote chance of survival. And Francis Pegahmagabow was exactly the right man for that job. He was indeed remarkable in many ways. To start with, he was a Canadian Aboriginal, which meant that he was treated as a second-class citizen in his own country. Or rather, not a citizen at all, as Canada at the time did not grant citizenship to people of tribal native descent. It's unclear on what exact date he was born, but it was sometime around March 8th.
I also want to say, hey, I got his name right. Francis Pegahmagabow. Put some respect on the name. And I got it right the first time. Francis Pegahmagabow. Francis Pegahmagabow.
1889, on a reservation now known as Shawanga First Nation. The newborn Francis is discovered next to his dead mother, who has apparently died giving birth to him. He grows up in an adopted family, who are part of the Parry Island Band.
Oh, no. That is horrible.
Now the Wasauksing First Nation. Eventually, he makes his living working on the Great Lakes and as a musician in a band. While a sailor, he's given a small leather pouch as a protective talisman, and the story goes that his belief in its protective powers is what will soon propel him to superhuman feats on the battlefields of France. But when you look at his whole life story, and how he seems to have overcome extreme adversity from the very first day of his life, it's more likely that the talisman only reinforced a natural ability to face danger, adventure, and adversity with almost nonchalant resolve. And then the war breaks out. The recruiters of the Canadian Army are not really that keen on enlisting men from the native tribes. Even
You know, they're going to be changing that attitude as the war drags on. 1914 becomes 1915, 1915 becomes 1916, 1916 becomes 1917, and of course we go all the way up to 1918. And let's face it, knowing trench warfare and the toll it takes, it's the grinder, it's the machine that chews up humans, you're going to need bodies. And knowing how the First World War was just going through people, it's horrifying to think that, you know, if you want to fight for your country, you're deemed an unworthy, or you're not even considered a real citizen. That is just beyond pathetic. That is just stupid. So let's see what Francis Pegahmagabow does.
turning away volunteers at times, but Francis has his eyes firmly set on joining the war and enlists immediately. By August 20th, 1914, Francis Pegahmagabow is heading for Valcartier, Quebec, the training base for Canadian soldiers bound for Europe. Soon he's in England, and in February 1915 arrives in France to train trench war tactics in the Ypres salient. Immediately when deployed at the actual front 2 months later, he's confronted with the first German gas attacks. Now, arriving in the trenches, one of which you see behind me, was by any standards a shocking experience. The constant fear of death from artillery fire, snipers, mines, bombardment from the sky, and then there was the all-out hellish experience of going over the top to face the enemy's wall of gunfire. Most soldiers did what they had to do to survive and follow orders. Many soldiers broke down or were killed before they could even decide what to do. And then there were a few men like Francis Pegahmagabow that...
Okay, what did Francis do? If he's, I don't know, maybe he was very heroic. Let's see.
Seemingly found themselves at home and went far beyond the call of duty at immense personal risk. It turns out that Francis has an uncanny skill of being able to slip through and between the trenches unnoticed. His eyesight is exceptional, and his marksmanship is excellent, so he's assigned as the battalion sniper. Now, snipers in this war are also used to run messages between headquarters in divided trenches, gather intelligence close to the enemy line, and carry out other dangerous missions in no man's land. But Pegahmagabow seems to be seeking out immediate personal danger as a thrill. At night, he sneaks into the German trenches to stand silently beside the enemy watch posts, just to slip away again unnoticed. He even enters the sleeping quarters of the German soldiers to cut off pieces of the uniforms they're actually wearing as they sleep. Now let that sink in for a bit.
Hold on, wait a minute. So this dude's sneaking out of the trenches, going to the enemy side, standing by the watchtower, then slipping back, going inside the enemy barracks, and taking pieces of their clothing. What the hell? I mean, if he's able to pull that off, British High Command should say, hey, listen, Francis, I need you to take this rifle and kill Kaiser Wilhelm II. And I bet Francis could have pulled this thing off. Hey, Francis, I'm noticing you have a whole lot of cloths of enemy uniforms. What are you making? I'm making a blanket. Okay, Francis. Francis Pegahmagabow. Just remember, you and me are friends. You and me are friends. Just remember that. It's probably how a conversation probably went in the trenches. Like, hey, Francis, how you doing? Just remember, I'm your buddy. Someone should make an alternate history. Francis Pegahmagabow versus Kaiser Wilhelm II. Doing all that, he probably could have pulled it off. Someone gave him the order.
The place he is in is possibly the closest to actual hell on earth that you or anyone can imagine. It's muddy, dirty, loud, and lethal. You're under constant threat from mortars, machine guns, patrols, and defense works. Everywhere around you, there is death and destruction. If you do not succumb to the fighting, chances are you will catch disease in the close, unhygienic quarters. And it is the smell of all of this that stays the longest in the memories of the men who suffered in the trenches. It is the odor of thousands of men living at close quarters. Their feces and urine, rotting food, molding cloth and decaying wood, the smell of sulfur, carbon, saltpeter, and other chemicals from the fighting. And most...
That would drive anyone insane. That would drive me insane. I'd go crazy.
Significantly, the overpowering stench of rotting flesh from the thousands of dead that lay unburied in no man's land. And in this apocalyptic world, Francis navigates silently, unseen and seemingly untouchable. He is truly a ghost in the trenches. As 1915 passes into 1916, he continues to restlessly stalk his enemy. His incredible service doesn't go unnoticed. On August 26, 1915, he is promoted to Lance Corporal. Now,
shoot, I promote him to Sergeant. Not just Lance Corporal, shoot, promote him up. Promote him up through the goddamn ranks, my God.
That's not an unremarkable thing considering his actions, but it is a remarkable thing when you consider his origins. Remember, back home, he's not even a Canadian citizen. But the war is the great equalizer. Soldiers are rated by their peers and superiors on their courage under fire and their actions in battle. Lance Corporal Francis Pegahmagabow's service is impeccable, and in March 1916, he is recommended for the Distinguished Conduct Medal. He carried messages with great bravery and success during the whole of the action at Ypres, Festubert, and Givenchy. In all his work, he has consistently shown a disregard for danger, and his faithfulness to duty is highly commendable. Although he does not receive this, the second highest award for gallantry in the British Army, he is part of the first group of 78 Canadian soldiers awarded the Military Medal.
I'd say just give him the Victorian Cross. Why not? Add that in there. The amount of stuff that he's doing, sneaking in and out, and he's still alive the first year. Now, obviously, I did see the original video or photo where it says he passed away in 1952. But my goodness, that means he walked out of the First World War. He walked out of those trenches. doing all of that.
He himself believes that he is protected by the spirits, and until the end of 1916, this seems to be true. But eventually, even Francis gets touched by reality. It's a leg wound that will keep him out of action for many months well into 1917. Most soldiers would welcome this opportunity to stay away from the war for a bit, but Francis is not most soldiers, and he wants back to the front. At first, they will not let him, but he starts a campaign of letter writing to convince his superiors to return him to active duty, and he's back in the front lines by May. The ghost in the trenches continues haunting the German lines throughout the summer.
Okay, that says a lot about dedication, even wanting to go back to that. And remember, Indy just described the smell of the place: rotten human flesh, sulfur, human feces, moldy food, moldy clothing, mold everywhere, fungus, dirt, everything. Everything that smells bad, all mixed into one and then mixed together again one more time. And he goes back there.
Of 1917, and in the fall he fights at Passchendaele. Here he is again commended for his exceptional work maintaining contact with units on the flanks and for guiding lost relief units, earning him his second military medal. But by now, the war is starting to take a toll even on Francis. Try to imagine it. By now, his short stay in the hospital accepted, he's been fighting more or less constantly for close to 3 years. He has taken sight of hundreds of enemy soldiers through his scope, enlarged enough so that he can see their facial features, maybe even the last light in their eyes just before he kills them with a shot to the head. Surely he did what most soldiers do, justify it to himself with the lives he saved on his own side. Most certainly he must have had a capacity to compartmentalize and objectify the enemy to cope with the killing. Probably he was able to overcome the stress by an unusual love for adrenaline kicks, but for how long can you keep that up? And how long can your body sustain this pressure? The answer for Francis is 3 years. At Christmas time,
Doing that 3 years. Jesus. 3 years of going through that kind of hell. It would break anybody. I don't care how strong you are. I know not even 6 months, probably a weekend, I'd probably snap. All that death and disease, all that despair, all that depression and insanity. No, that would break me. Put respect on Francis Pegahmagabow.
he is diagnosed with pneumonia and sent into convalescence until
I had pneumonia once. I was like bedridden for like 2 weeks. Lost about like 20, 22 pounds. That was pain. I never want to go through something like that again.
till May 1918, but he returns to service working through the summer of 1918. By now, he is showing signs of what in 2019 would be called post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes.
He's becoming insubordinate and gets cited for disciplinary problems, but he continues service over the summer, sniping and running messages at, among others, the Second Battle of Arras, where he earns the second bar on his military medal. This is his commendation. During the operations on August 30th, 1918 at Oryx Trench near Upton Wood, when his company were almost out of ammunition and in danger of being surrounded, this NCO went over the top under heavy machine gun and rifle fire and brought back sufficient ammunition to enable the post to carry on and assist in repulsing heavy enemy counterattacks. But Francis is now more of a ghost of himself than anything else. And by early November, he is sent to England suffering exhaustion psychosis. When only days later the war ends, he is discharged back to Canada.
Wow.
He ends the First World War as one of only 37 Canadian soldiers to receive 2 bars on his military medal.
Again, my goodness, what an incredible feat just to survive the First World War and to do what he did, especially going all the way into the enemy territory, by the watchtower, inside the enemy barracks while they slept, cutting off pieces of their clothing. I mean, this man is an unstoppable force of nature. Francis has got my respect, and I have to tip my hat to him. He is a real one. I never knew of this person's existence, but now I do, and you should too. And if there's any books or any other stories that elaborate or go further into his story, please type in the comment section below. I need to know.
And is the most highly decorated Aboriginal soldier in Canadian history. He is credited with 378 sniper kills, which is more than anyone else from any country in the First World War, and he captured over 300 prisoners. Numbers that make it easy to understand that, like every
So 378 kills and captured 300 prisoners. How did he not get the Victorian Cross now? Hello?
man and woman who served at or near the front, he returns changed forever. But true to his nature, Francis, although changed, is not broken. He has experienced acceptance as an equal from men serving by his side in battle, and then returns to Canada, where he is everything but equal. He begins a lifelong struggle for full citizenship and equal rights for Aboriginal Canadians. He serves 2 tenures as chief of the Parry Island Band and continues his involvement with the armed forces by joining the local militia regiment, the 23rd Pioneers, where he serves as company sergeant major from 1930 to 1936. Francis Pegahmagabow dies August 5, 1952, and is buried on the Wasauksing First Nation, close to where he was born. Like many of the rest of his generation, he took the suffering of war that he had endured and inflicted and turned it towards changing the world to the better. Born a non-desirable orphan, he is today, 100 years after his service, recognized in Canada as an important part of Canadian military history.
As he
with
should.
the 3rd Canadian Ranger Patrol Group named in honor of Corporal Francis Pegahmagabow. To his allies, he was a hero and at times a savior. To his enemies, he was swift death. To all of us, he should be an example of how terribly personal war is.
And he's got my respect. And he built himself up from nothing and then went through the most devastating war. 378 kills, 300 prisoners captured. Francis Pegahmagabow. He's a real one. He's a real one. You got my respect, man. Put respect on his name, Francis Pegahmagabow.
And now over to our roving reporters, Indy Nidell and Joachim from Sabaton at Verdun.
Thanks, Indy. Thanks, Joachim. Yes, that's right. We are here in the trenches, in some actual World War I trenches. Joachim, over to you.
Well, at the end of every album production, when we're writing the lyrics and everything, there's always 1 or 2 songs left that we can't find the perfect story for. For us, it's really important that the music and the lyrics match.
That's cool.
And this song, really, we couldn't find anything until you came to our rescue.
Me?
Yes, we were actually a bit desperate.
Okay.
And we were scouring the internet. We came across an amazing episode on the Great War about Francis Pegahmagabow, a ghost in the trenches.
Of course, the hero of Ghost in the Trenches. Yeah, if you don't know, my first big YouTube series was The Great War. You should go and check it.
Hey, by the way, folks, Indy Nidell has a YouTube channel, so you know what I'm going to say. Hey, look, please support the original videos, Sabaton History. The link is in the description box below, but also support Indy Nidell's YouTube channel as well, because it's the right thing to do. No debate, no conversation. It's the right thing to do.
Get out. So, well, I'm glad I could be an inspiration to you guys.
Yes, it was lovely.
See, we work together. We complement each other. And now, back to you, Indy and Joachim.
Thank you, roving reporters Indy Nidell and Joachim from Sabaton, and we are back in the studio. Okay, Ghost in the Trenches, Francis Pegahmagabow.
It was one of the first songs to be written for the album, actually the first one, and the first one featuring Tommy as a songwriter. So I wrote that with him.
Wow.
And this one, I actually started, I don't remember, it started with a Googling or something. And that's when I knew this is a song, because this is a, sorry for the language, what the fuck moment. How have I not heard about this? And I gotta say, you did a great job on the research, because what was available online, at least when I tried to find some, there wasn't much.
And cool that Tommy.
That's a thing about a lot of individuals who served in the various conflicts that have impacted humanity. A lot of people's stories go unnoticed, or there's not a lot of books or videos or interviews available for the public, and so their stories fly under the radar. It goes unnoticed, and, well, I think in many ways, it's our social responsibility to learn more about the people, because their actions helped shape the world we are in right now.
You got the credit for that and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously he comes from bands where he's been the main songwriter and singer and keyboard player and guitarist at the same time.
Yeah.
So we already knew that he's perfectly capable of writing songs, but we didn't know if we were gonna be able to write songs together, because sometimes different songwriting styles don't really match. But in this case, I guess you'll be hearing more from me and Tommy.
And here's another bizarre little bonus. When we were filming the stuff at Verdun, I went down to the hotel bar, and Tommy was just playing on the piano and stuff. And there were a couple of journalists there, and they asked us to play a song together. And I don't know how it came up with this, but one of the journalists recorded it, so I guarantee we can put a piece of it here. This is me and Tommy doing Frosty the Snowman. completely unrehearsed.
Exclusive on Sabaton History.
Yeah.
Frosty the Snowman, it's a fairy tale they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. There must have been some magic in that old silk hat they found, 'cause when they placed it on his head, he began to dance around.
All right, everyone. Remember to support us on Patreon, because that's what makes this show happen, actually. And there's a playlist. Cool shit. You want that. And also, don't forget to check out Time Ghost and World War II. And I hope to see you again very soon. Take care.
All right, you know what the deal is. So first of all, y'all got a bonus story of, or bonus song of Frosty the Snowman. But now, since we got our learn on, let's get our fun on. I will give my full analysis of both videos, but I'm going to play the song Sabaton, A Ghost in the Trenches. Francis Pegahmagabow, who is a hero. Oh, by the way, there's a reason why Frosty the Snowman ain't around anymore. Let's just say he was crossing the line and Santa wanted him to get regulated. The reason why that hat flew off or was shot off, Santa sent Francis to regulate on Frosty. I know. It's about time you learned the truth what happened to Frosty. He was starting to get a little bit in over his head.
Move between the lines, a soldier brave to the confines. From overseas, a war in foreign land, await the eager recruits. And in the midst among the men, a soldier with a different past returned to his roots. Into battle, the gas has them been. Then this soldier invoked the spirits of the wind. Under fire, a ghost that rules the battlefield. Move between the lines, a soldier brave to the confines. An outlaw man and rifle, a marksman and a scout revealed. Makes his way from trench to trench alone, moving undetected. And on the fields of Passchendaele, a guiding light for reinforcements finding their way. And in the battle of the star, Pegahmagabow over no man's land and fire away. In the battle, the gas had them bend. Pegahmagabow invoked the spirits of the wind. trench to trench alone, moving undetected.
Francis Pegahmagabow. Francis Pegahmagabow. Put some respect on his name. Put a lot of respect on his name. But wow, talk about a incredible journey. Born at a time when he was deemed a second-class citizen in his own country. Born as an orphan, had to build himself up, learn his own crafts and skills on his own, then to serve in one of the most devastating wars at the time, the Great War, trench warfare, and then to have the courage and the strength and the power, not only to go through the trenches, but go to the enemy lines, by the watchtowers, inside the barracks. 378 confirmed kills, 300 prisoners captured. I mean, he had Lady Luck on his side or something on his side. He was protected, and the music video does him justice. The song does him so much justice and more. This is what I mean about, again, people who are flying, who are, again, under our radar. I mean, we focus on the big historic events and the leaders and the battles, but, you know, there's other stories, millions upon millions of untold stories of the various people who served in and fought in many of the conflicts throughout human history. And I think it's important that we give the due respect and, again, do our own part, our social responsibility to bring their stories to light. I hope you enjoyed this. Definitely please support Sabaton History. The original link to the video is in the description box below. So please, 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 please do the right thing. Support the original content creators. Support Sabaton History. Come on, what's wrong with you? Or you have to do 30 push-ups and drink water. But you know what? One more bonus song. One more bonus song because all of you deserve it, right? You got to stay frosty out there. And the song is incredible. Stay frosty, folks.
On Sabaton History.
Yeah.
Frosty the snowman is a fairy tale, they say. He was made of snow, but the children know how he came to life one day. There must have been some magic in that old silk hat they found, 'cause when they placed it on his head, he began to dance around.
All right, everyone. Remember to support us.
All right, folks. All right. Please take good care of yourselves and each other. Drink water. And yes, the reason why Frosty isn't around is because, let's say Francis had to shovel out Frosty, okay? Stop asking questions. Frosty had it coming. That's all you need to know.